This is just to say by William Carlos Williams. This is just to say I have eaten the plums that were in the ice box, and which we were probably saving for breakfast. Forgive me, they were delicious, so sweet and so cold. Written as though it was a note left on a kitchen table, Williams' poem appears to the reader like a piece of found poetry, and basically found poems take existing texts and reconstruct them to make them look like a poem. This idea that the poem was once a note that's been converted into a poem is reinforced by the idea, well, by the fact actually, that there's no rhyme or no beat to the poem and it doesn't have an actual form. It's basically just a free verse. So, the most distinctive qualities of this poem are its really short lines and its lack of punctuations. And these two elements are actually what propelled me the most towards this poem. Because I find that the more a poem lacks in formal structural elements, the more can be conveyed in terms of interpretations and meanings and messages behind words. The fact that Williams chose these few words specifically for his poem just places a lot more of importance and meaning and significance behind them. And if it was a poem with many verses and many words and a lot of lines, it's just each word doesn't have as much of an impact on you than when it's a really short poem with very few words. Also, the lack of punctuation in the poem forces the reader to read it as if it was just one long sentence, which is another indicator of the poem's mundane origins as a note. With this kind of poem, there are so many interpretations and theories that can be made. And it's those theories and the ability for those theories and thoughts to arise from something so simple that makes this poem profound. It appears as if the poem is trying to say, look at all the complexities and all of the beauty that can arise from such an everyday, uncontrived moment. This is the kind of poem that just comes to you when it comes. You write it down, walk away, and there it is. You don't force it into a form. You just want it to sound pleasing to the ear and be what it was meant to be, an honest response to a moment in time. Some people may read this poem and think, I don't get it, like anyone could write something like that. And that's actually the point of this poem. The hardest part about this poem is getting over our preconceptions about poetry. We have to ask ourselves, what is poetry in the first place? And what this poem teaches us is that anything can be worthy enough to be the subject of a poem, that nothing is too boring or too mundane to be talked about because there's beauty in everything. This poem is basically about feeling guilty after not being able to resist temptation, which is something we can all relate to because it's something we've all experienced before. Which is what makes this poem so great because poems they don't have to be complicated and hard to read, or they don't have to be about a subject that's grandiose and kind of intimidating. They can be about something that happens every day using everyday language. As long as something strikes us as true to a human emotion, then it's a poem. I'm the kind of person who will see something online or on social media and think, wow, I want to do that. I want to go there. And it's turned me into the kind of person who won't necessarily enjoy the my life right now because I'm constantly wishing for something greater, for something better, or what I think is greater or better. And I think the fact that this poem is so short and simple and some might say boring just reminds me that my life right now, if it may seem uneventful, well, that I should take a moment to appreciate those little moments that are happening because in the long run, it's those snippets of life that I'll cherish forever. And although the poem doesn't explicitly talk about being grateful for what you have, I think that actually the fact that it's about something as inconsequential as eating the last plums, and the fact that there's that kind of importance that's placed on that simple topic just reminds me that that in my own life I have to place value in those small, sometimes repetitive moments of life because they're actually important and I should, value them and think of them as important as those great adventures I may one day go on. And so I think how this poem personally resonates in me is that I don't have to live super grandiose experiences to find value in my life. Like, my life doesn't have to be filled with constant adventure for me to be happy. Like, I need to find my own happiness in my small portion of the world. I need to find happiness with what I have and not with what I'm always hoping to have.